Drone bombings weren't the worst of what Obama did. You know, the worst of what he did was overthrowing Muammar Qaddafi in Libya, funding the anti-Assad rebels and starting a civil war in Syria, funding the Saudis and giving them the green light and refueling their fighter jets so they could genocide the people of Yemen for 8 freaking years. That was the worst of it. And just goddamn tragedy.
Yeah, but he talks so well.
He gave a hell of a speech.
Great president.
He really gave a hell of a
Great
speech.
Statesman.
It's people forget how good he was. The job aged him a lot too. So he wasn't as good at the end as he was at the beginning. But if you go listen to his it's nonsense. It's mostly just like gooey nothingness. But if you listen to his speech at the 2008 Democratic National Convention, his official acceptance speech, it's just like it's a masterclass on public speaking. He would just say these things even when they were like meaningless, but he would like I was trying to think if I can remember. He has this thing where he's like, I love this country, and so do you, and so does John McCain. The men and women who have fought and died in our armed forces have been Democrats and Republicans and independents, but they did not die defending a red America or a blue America. They died defending the United States of America. It's like, but the way he would deliver it, it's so like, it really just tugs at your like insides and makes you like, God damn. And then after a little while, you walk away and you're like, wait, but what did he say?
Right.
You're like, oh, there was nothing. I mean, it was nothing. It wasn't like, you know.
Well, that's a
he did say some good
thing.
things when he ran, though. He did. I mean, he ran on some really good policies, like ending the wars and closing Guantanamo Bay and repealing the Patriot Act and restoring the rule of law and, you know, ending torture and all. Yeah. The shame is he did none of it. And I think that's like. I go back and forth. You could pick like any president really of my lifetime. You'd be like, who ruined the 21st century for America? You could certainly make an argument for George W. Bush and Dick Cheney, but there's something about Obama. I think I put probably more blame than anyone else on him because he was supposed to be the response. And like that's the way this system of government is supposed to work, or so they say, is like, well, we have these democratic processes, you know, so you can you know, if you're upset with these guys, you can kick the bums out and vote for these guys. And obviously, we all know it's like then they narrow it down to 2 teams, and those 2 teams happen to have the same policy when it comes to, you know, the military-industrial complex or the banking-industrial complex or the pharmaceutical-industrial complex. They're all on the same side. So that's how the uniparty works. Like, no matter who you vote in, they're all supposed to be. But the country was so furious with George W. Bush and Dick Cheney, who handed him 2 disastrous failed wars and the worst financial crisis in 100 years. And they were so furious with them that they voted the most opposite thing they could. You know, this junior senator, constitutional lawyer, brilliant, articulate, you know, everything that was the opposite of George W. Bush. And he was supposed to be the answer. And then he got in and just continued the Bush administration. It might as well have been the 3rd and 4th term of George W. Bush. And that is where the country spins out, to me. That's where you end up with Trump.
I bet if you were friends with Obama, if you really were friends with him, if you could have a couple of drinks, maybe spark up a joint and talk to that guy, if he really trusted you and knew you were never going to tell anybody, I bet he could tell you some shit.
Yeah, I bet you're right.
I'm more of like a believer in what Putin has said about this when he talks about how he's been through 3 different presidents and they all have these plans. Yeah. And he goes, and they get into office and people that are dressed in a suit like mine come in, sit them down and tell them how everything works. If you think about how much access to the real understanding of how the government works is ever going to be given to a junior senator who's running for president, I bet very little. I bet very little. I bet there's no speeches. I bet there's no conversation about it. I think once you get in, once you're in the Pentagon, once you're in the Oval Office, once you're meeting with these people and you realize like, holy shit, and then you realize this machine behind you that's pushing all the buttons and you're a spokesperson for this machine.
I think this might be why they hated Trump so much because I think that speech just didn't work on him.
Yeah, he's like yeah.
There's this story, and I don't know if this is true or not, but it sounds so true. I think it was in Bob Woodward's book. I can't remember where it was, but this may not be true, but it just sounds so true that I guess after Trump won the election and he goes to Camp David, I think this is still while he was president-elect. It might have been right after he got in. I'm not sure. But I guess he goes and he's like at this like CIA like thing. And they said that he came in and there's like a wall for like agents who died in the line of duty. And they said Trump just walks in and stands right in front of it, which is like crazy disrespectful to do. And he said he just starts talking to the room about how tremendous his victory was. Like he just gets there and he's like, everyone said we were going to lose, but we won big and we won both. And it just sounds like, I don't know if that really happened, but it so sounds like that really happened. And you can just imagine all these CIA agents just like, we got to get rid of this guy. But like what you said about the stuff, like the speech they give, who knows? It's a real interesting thing to think about.
I would love to talk to Trump about this.
It's a great Bill Hicks, Bill Hicks bit.
The bit about showing the Kennedy assassination from an angle you've never seen before.
Such a great bit. But I will say that there definitely are what we know is there definitely are forces that kind of roll over presidents. And even with Obama, like, you know, if you remember the story with General McChrystal. Mm-hmm. And how he went to the media and told them. This is the guy who Michael Hastings ended up getting fired because he was, you know, talking shit about Obama to him at a bar.
Maybe whacked.
Well, you know, he just was driving too fast that night, I guess. I don't know. I don't know the story there.
Let's talk about that one in a minute.
Sure. I'm not sure if that is like what happened with that because I have heard that like his brother said he started drinking again or something like that. So I don't know the details of that story exactly.
I would drink too if assassins were
yes,
after me.
if I was working on uncovering CIA corruption, I'd probably
not
be
just
drinking.
working on uncovering CIA corruption, but you were embedded with these soldiers and they got comfortable with you.
Yeah,
and then you printed all the things that they said.
But what's very interesting about that is that it was a really important story because it makes you recognize that like wow, even these like very high ranking generals are talking shit about the president like this fucking asshole doesn't know what he's doing and that.
Right.
But so McChrystal before that interview he went to the media because Obama I guess gave him the surge he wanted, but he put an end date on it. And it was like, but our troops will be out by this date. And that pissed him off. And so he went to the media and told them that, you know, he said, I haven't had any contact with the president and we haven't been talking since this and that. And then the media was like, put all this pressure on Obama, like, you're not even talking to your guy over there in Afghanistan, and basically kind of tied his hands politically so that he kind of just had to continue the war. And there's a lot of stuff like that happens. And with Trump, I mean, it was reported that they lied to him about the number of troops in Syria. And when he said he wanted to pull the troops out, they lied to him and said there were far less than there actually were. Wow. Like they're just bragging about this. It's really you realize that this thing is all fake.